Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today we are in for a bit of a doozy of a project. You can see all these different papers here. We're going to be making bird of paradise flowers. So I have all of my papers today are 1/8 inch wide. I have a sage green. I have a tiny bit of a dark red. I have two kind of orangey colors here. One is actually a yellow. And then I have two colors in our purple family, a darker and a lighter. So we need a lot of different papers today because these are very colorful flowers. We're going to be making pretty much the entire flower on our quilling comb here. I'm using the tight teeth side on the Super Looper quilling comb. And whenever I do my quilling comb, I do start off with my needle tool as well. So grab one of those. You're going to need a cork board and some pins. I have my Elmer's glue wall in my needle nose bottle and then some Aleene's tacky glue for when I start putting the actual flower together. Now let's look at some examples here because these are not flowers that are grown in most parts of the world. They need a more warm tropical climate, but they're so unique and beautiful. They have this large green part, that's the beak of the bird. It has a little bit of red. Some orange, they're called sepals, coming from the top, and then those blue parts are actually the petals. Now our bird of paradise flowers are going to look slightly different. We're going to take a little bit of creative license, but we're definitely going to put all the pieces together and it's going to catch the vibe of these beautiful flowers. The first thing we're going to do is the only part that's not going to be made on our quilling comb. I am making the stem of these flowers. There's not much to these. I am just going to make a quadruple thick strip. So I'm taking this sage green and folding it down the middle, applying some glue from the fold all the way to the end with my needle nose bottle. I'm not missing a spot. And then running that through to make sure there's no air bubbles, which would create little gaps in my stem. I don't want that. And normally I would let this set for a minute, but this video is already going to be pretty long because there's a lot of components here. So we're going to fast forward. We're going to pretend this is dry. You're going to want to let yours sit for a minute. Fold it again down the middle and do that process all over again. And that is going to give us our quadruple thick strip. Again, the stems on these flowers are definitely the most plain part of the whole shebang. So just having this nice thick strip to hold up against the weight of the flower is all we need. So once you make that, you're going to set that aside to dry. My strips, because they were about 18 inches long to start with, ends up around 5 inches long, more or less. That's going to be plenty for the size of our flower. Now everything else from here on out is going to be made on your quilling comb. You don't have to use the same brand that I'm using, but just note that your size may change of your finished flower if you do with a different brand, but it's all going to work out just the same. The first thing we're going to do is make the large green beak of our bird. And to do that, I need 3 strips of 18-inch long sage green quilling paper. Whenever I start off on my quilling comb, I like to do a couple of turns on my needle tool to make an anchor. I think it's easier to hold and I don't need to worry about my paper slipping through the teeth of my comb as easily. It just gives it a little bit of a sturdy starting point. And everything I'm doing today, I am going to count the number of teeth for you. They're all going to have the same motion more or less, starting from the bottom and wrapping up and around and grabbing an extra tooth each time. When I give my count, for me, it works easier not to count that starting anchor point. So I have my anchor and then a number. That then a number is the count I'm going to give, if that makes sense. So ignoring that first spot, start counting from there. So all I'm doing again is just wrapping my sage green strip up and over, grabbing 1 extra tooth every time. And at this point, I have pretty much run out of strip. I'm going to flip to the back and glue on my next strip right where I stopped. Notice I didn't add any other glue at this point. The friction of the paper is holding itself on by now. I don't need to glue every step. I also didn't glue all 3 of these strips together and then start weaving. Normally, if I'm doing like a coil on my quilling tool and I need extra long strips, I would glue the strips together first and then roll them. But if you were going to weave on your quilling comb with that long of a strip, it would definitely start getting in the way and getting tangled. It's just easier to just wrap one strip at a time here so they don't get sort of unruly. So I'm still going here. My goal for this large piece is to get my first anchor piece and then 20 teeth, which is pretty much exactly the 3 strips that I need. So I've gotten, there's my second piece here. Now notice I tore a little bit off that one. I like my piece, my part where I join the strips, to be in the back, not at the bottom, not in the front. It's just a personal preference. If you didn't mind that look, by all means, it's just where I prefer to join my strips. So now I have my third strip. Pushing that on just for a second. And I'm going to continue wrapping. I'm getting close to the end now. And again, if you're not using this exact super looper, your count may be different. I will tell you this end piece is probably about a little less than 3 inches long. Now let's count here. We have 1, not our starting point, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So that's what I wanted. Now I'm going to glue the end of my tail here in the back again down to my finished piece there. And I'm going to be able at this point to just gently slide this off. And even though I didn't use any glue other than joining the strips, it's all going to stay together, and that is what I am looking for at this point. Now our little beak here is going to be made of a couple of different pieces. I'm going to now do the exact same thing, but instead of 3 strips, I can use about 2 strips. And my measurement is going to be my center coil plus 16. So here I am gluing the second strip just like before. Most of the pieces of this flower are going to be made the same exact way. They're just going to have different counts for the length. So this one has the 2 strips. I'm going to keep weaving just like I did before until I get to the center plus 16. So here we are just finishing up and double counting that I'm going to end where I think I am. So I have 15 here, wrap around again. That makes our anchor plus 16. Just like before, we're going to glue it in the back. And we actually are going to need 2 of these in the same exact size. And I will get to why that makes sense later on in the video. But here is that piece, and then another one exactly the same size. And then there's that biggest one with the anchor plus 20 that we made from the beginning. So all 3 of those pieces together are going to make what is that big green beak. That's the part of the flower that protects the petals as they are growing. So put one of those smaller pieces aside. We're going to glue the largest piece and the smaller piece, one of those, together to form that really big beak shape. And all we're going to do is just stack them on top of each other and very gently kind of push them into a long curved beak-like shape. We don't want to smush too much because we don't want to make this really flat, but you do want a point on that end. So if you need to, you can grab your cork board and just kind of put pins on either side of this and let it just kind of finish drying in the shape you want. That's what I'm going to do here. Notice if I let it go, it stays in the same shape, but it's just gotten a little bit wider. I want it to be just a little bit thinner, so I'm just going to put a couple of pins on the end there just to keep that point nice and sharp, and then a couple of pins on the other side just to keep it in the shape that I like. I want it really kind of swooped up. There we go. Now, after that dries for a little bit, we are going to add just a little bit more detail to our beak piece. First thing we're going to do is on the longest end, we're going to start wrapping in a bit of that same green color. And all this is going to do is just sort of make this beak look a little bit more finished. It's going to make sure that we keep it nice and tight in the shape that we want. Just adding a little bit of glue and wrapping it as we go. I'm not going to tuck it into the end there where it sort of looks like a little heart shape because I don't want the end to look like a heart. I'm just going to keep wrapping it around until I get to the other end. I'm only doing this once. I just want it to just have a continuous green line all the way around it. So, add a little bit more glue to that piece and then all the way down to the end here. Give too much glue, just wipe it off. You just need a tiny bit. Just wrap it around so it looks nice and finished. And then the next thing we're going to do, you can see the red paper there. I am going to just wrap about 2/3 of this in that red. If you think back to the pictures that I showed in the beginning, this beak has a nice bright red kind of stripe going across the top of it, starting from the side and then going right across the top. Get myself on the right side here. There we go. I want it on the top, not on the bottom. And I'm actually going to start from the back. So I'm going to start back here and just go up and over. Not going to do any on the bottom at all. So starting from the back, add a little bit of glue and then line up your red. Another reason that I added that green strip is because I didn't want this red right up against those two thicker pieces on the side there. I wanted it to look totally green before I added the red. So then I'm just going to kind of measure along the top. The top is the bigger of the two pieces that made this beak. So add some glue all the way down there and just get this piece lined up nice and flat, nice and straight. It's not going crooked off the side. Get it all the way down to the end. And then I'm going to use some scissors here. You can tear it if you want to. Just want to get it nice and crisp to the end there. Then I'm actually going to do this 3 times just to make this really nice and noticeable. So starting again, same process. Just tear the edge to make it nice and smooth on that side. And if you have a tool handy like this, your needle tool, sometimes it's easy to kind of burnish it and get it really nice and smooth and set. And then you're going to keep going until you get this done 3 times. And now jumping ahead to the end of our 3rd go around and getting rid of any excess. This is what you should be looking at this point. That is going to be the start of our flower. And now we're moving ahead pretty quickly. We're going to make the piece that connects the stem to the beak. It's going to be made exactly the same way as the parts of our beak, but it's only made of a single strip of 18-inch paper, and the measurement for this one is our anchor piece plus 11 teeth. It ends up being more or less about an inch long, and you're going to need 2 of those as well. You can go ahead and put those aside. Now we're going to move along to the sepals, the orangey yellow pieces that come from the beak, and kind of stand up straight. Again, made just the same way as we made the rest of our pieces so far on our quilling comb. So this one, there's actually 2 pieces for each of the sepals because I wanted them to be kind of thick. Think to those pictures again. They're nice and they're bright, and they're not super skinny. They have a little bit of size to them. So I'm making 2 pieces for each sepal the same way, starting with the anchor piece. I'm going to make one that goes up 11 teeth and then one that goes up 10 teeth. So they're sort of the same size, but one's just a little bit smaller. And that way when I put them together, they're going to be able to have a little bit more movement to them. They're not going to stop sort of bluntly at the end. It's going to make sense when we get it together. Here I am finishing the second of the 2 pieces that are going to make up one individual sepal, gluing that down. And then once I take it off the comb, putting the 2 pieces of this orange together exactly the same way as we put together the 2 pieces of the green to make the beak earlier. So just holding it on the side, adding some glue, and then just getting them stacked on top of each other. And you want to hold them there for a moment. And like I said before, because they're not stopping exactly the same point on the quilling comb, the peak is a little bit sharper. You can leave it sort of straight up. If you want to, you can give it a bit of a bend, a little bit of a wave. We're going to need a few of these. I made a few of them in that deep orange, and then a couple the same exact size in that deep yellow. If you remember from the very beginning of the video when I was showing the supplies I was using, I had some yellow paper and some orange. So we're going to make a few of those. Same size, there's the orange and the other yellow ones. Now we're going to move on to the petals. Technically, the petals are blue, but I couldn't find a blue color that I thought was really working. So we're going to be using 2 shades of purple instead. Starting off with the lighter of the 2 shades, we're doing the same thing, the same motion, but I am skipping a tooth every time I'm weaving on this color only. So I'm starting with my anchor. I'm going up 2 and coming back, going up 2 and coming back. And I'm doing that 5 times. So technically I went up 10 teeth, but I only did 5 loops. The reason why is because I wanted the length, but I didn't want it to be as bulky. So instead of doing a loop for every tooth, I skipped one. So that's why this piece is going to look slightly different. Now I'm going to pinch this guy really hard. I'm not losing the entire loop from the beginning, but I'm definitely squeezing this a bit more than I was the other shapes. And then the last part of the petal here is going to be made in the darker purple. And we're going back to wrapping this exactly the same way as we did majority of the pieces of our bird of paradise. We're starting with the anchor and then going up and over, and we are going to grab 6 teeth in total. So that's number 3 and 4 and 5, and then one more. There we go. So Take that off, just like all the rest of the pieces. And I promise after this piece is done, you can put your quilling comb aside for a minute because we are going to be done with that part. And it's going to be time to put all of our pieces together. But first, let's just finish putting the two pieces of our petals together. I have my purple piece here. We're going to give this a good bend. And I have my light purple piece. I'm going to glue them together, but I don't want it to sit all the way down. See how they're sort of pushing away from each other? That's what I'm looking for. So I have my light purple bent down and my dark purple bent up. That's what I want. And I made two of these. I'm going to need two of those for each flower. Let's double check we have our pieces here. I have my 5 sepals in different colors. I have the big piece of our beak and then that smaller one that I made to match the smaller size. And I have the other 2 pieces plus my stem. So we're going to start to put all of this together now. So again, just to recap, I made 2 pieces a couple different times that were the same size in the green. The 2 on the left side there, and then a piece that matches the smaller part of our beak. The reason why I did that is because I am going to be stacking these sepals and petals on each other. And because I'm using all the same width paper, if I did that, then the petals would be taller than the beak. That's not what we want. I'm going to glue the 2 pieces of the beak that are the same size on top of each other to make sort of a little pocket that some of the petals can sit into. That will make more sense in a moment. For now, you can see how I am gluing the 2 pieces that were made the same size for the beak on top of each other. The trickiest part of this is making it so that all of those loops are lined up exactly on top of each other. You would think it would just fit together exactly the same way, but if you made your anchor slightly different, it's going to be slightly different. If your arc that you have made when you were bending your piece is slightly different, it's going to be slightly different. So it's just going to take some time to kind of line those up perfectly. If that doesn't matter to you, just glue it on. You know, it's going to be sort of hard to see if they are lining up exactly together. Do whatever you'd like to do. There's no sense in making yourself crazy over that. It's just a very small attention to detail type thing. Once I have it lined up the way I think I want it, I'm just going to put some pins in place here so I don't have to try to hold it as it dries. But here, now you can see, because I've made it a little bit taller, I can tuck a couple of those sepals in and then put the rest on top, and it gives the illusion of the sepals coming out of this beak part. Now we're going to do a similar thing to these 2 pieces here. We're going to stack them on top of each other. So just like before, I'm going to first get this sort of pinched up together here, and then I'm going to add some glue. Notice I'm not putting it on all the loops inside, really just the outside is fine. It will stay together. And then this one's a little bit easier to line up because it's a little bit smaller. I want it to have a nice curve to it. Remember, this is the piece that is going to connect the stem to the beak part of our bird of paradise. We want to get it lined up and then give it a good bend over. The reason that this is tall as well is because it's going to hold that entire beak. So it needs to be as tall as the beak is. I'm using some pins to keep this in the shape that I want it, that nice curve, as these 2 pieces dry on top of each other. We're gonna let all of that sit for a few minutes, and then we can start really putting this flower together. It's gonna go real fast from here on out, I promise. I know this was a bear of a video, but we are really getting there. So this is sort of how I want this section of our flower to sit, just kind of on the back there, but a little bit taller. So now I can start using my tacky glue because I really want this to start setting up a little bit quicker. Just a little bit of glue on the end there. Get this back where I want it. Oh, throw my glue. And then a couple of pins to make sure that this stays. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to do is start putting our pieces in the top coming out of our beak. So like you said before, I'm going to do this in 2 layers. I'm going to start with one of the yellow ones and kind of get that to the side. You don't want these all standing straight up like little soldiers. They're going to have some movement. They're sort of coming out in different angles. I know that technically the bird of paradise flower has little smaller, thinner pieces connecting these sepals to the beak. This is where that artistic license came in. I kind of just skipped that part because you kind of get the same idea this way. Notice how these are going in different angles. You don't have to do 2 different colors of this. You can make them all the same color if you want to. And then our petals here, the purple petals aren't going to be coming out exactly all on the same plane either. They're sort of tucked in and around the sepals. So I'm going to put one of them on this bottom layer. And let's get a little bit of glue there. I want to make sure that I'm gluing the sepals to the beak and then also to each other, just to make sure that nobody's moving around too much. So that's where this is the glue here that's going to connect the top of the sepal to the inside of our beak. And if you think these are getting too wide on you, feel free to pinch them back together. At this point, I definitely felt like they were still a little bit too wide. So I really am just going to start pinching all of this to the side here and using some pins just to get everybody nice and tight on the inside of the beak. Just get everybody lined up a little bit more snugly. There we go. You don't have to do that if yours is lining up the way you want it. That is perfect. Just don't be afraid to use the pins and the workboard to keep things where you want them as they dry. It is okay. Nobody's going to know. All right, so now we have the outer layer of our sepals. And again, pinch the top, curve the top of these, get some life into them. They're not going to be, like I said, standing up, stick straight. They're going to be a little bit curved. They're going to be blowing in the wind. They're just have a little bit of life to them. And now I just need to apply some glue to the underside and to the bottom, because these are going to connect to the sepals and petals underneath them, but then also to the top of the beak. They're going to stand a little bit taller. If you don't want to do all this, you can use thinner paper for this. You can use a 2mm, a 1/16 inch quilling paper if you want to. That is fine. I don't love people having to go out and buy a bunch of different widths of paper for every single project. So sometimes we just use what we got, and that's the case for here. And that's how I came up with the kind of taller beak part, adding another layer underneath to make it stand up a little bit. But if your petals are thinner, you don't need to do that. Here we go. That is our last little sepal here. Just get that with a nice little curve to it. There we go. They almost look like sort of like flames coming out as well. Get that one kind of where I want it. and it's going to cover up some of the stuff underneath of it, and that's okay. That's the idea of this whole flower. Put that one there. And then we have our last purple petal coming up from the side. If you want to use different colors, obviously, do whatever you think is right. I had, even though they're blue, I had darker blues, I had lighter blues. I just could not find a blue that made sense for these petals, so that's why we went with the purple, and it worked for me. So this one's going to be coming from the front. I kind of want it to come out a little bit more, so I'm going to prop it up with a pin there and just put one in there just to make sure that that doesn't move while it's drying. We're pretty much there. All we need to do now is put our stem on, which I'm going to sort of tuck in between the two layers. Not really in between, but kind of get it butted up right against the middle of that piece. I'll add a little bit of glue here to the very, very end. I'm going to need to prop it up a little bit on something here because it's going, yeah, there we go. It's going to start falling a bit and ending a little bit crooked as it dries. Just put this under there as well. Just make it stand up as it dries. Okay, so let's let that dry for a couple of minutes and we can start taking out the pins. Now, because of the sort of bulkiness of this particular design, it probably won't be great for cards. It is quite heavy. It's got a lot of paper to it. So this may be more along the lines of something you would save for like a mounted sort of wall decor type item. But go ahead and take it. I definitely should let that stem dry for a little bit longer, but that's okay. You will let yours dry for the right amount of time, I'm sure. There you go. I didn't make any leaves for these. I figured this video is quite long enough, but you could weave them in a similar way as you made the beak. Just nice broad leaves for this flower. And there you go. Nice, bright, tropical bird of paradise flowers. Just what we needed here on the East Coast to warm us up a little bit. It's been kind of a brutal winter here. We are definitely ready for some sunshine. As always, I will leave links in the description box for the tools and supplies I used for this project, along with a link to my Buy Me a Coffee page where you can find some quilling extras, some ways to support the channel, which is super, super helpful and allows me to keep making these videos week after week. You can see there I have a brand new quilling paper strip checklist that you can print out on your own. I have both US measurements and metric as well, which is really great if you're trying to keep your stash organized, you're getting ready to make a quilling paper order, you know exactly what colors and what sizes you need. In the meantime, leave your questions in the comment section and I'll answer those as soon as I can. Be kind to each other, take care of your neighbors, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you can be around for my next video. And I'll see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.